I'm going to stop here because we have news from Newcastle. Let's go back there. Rob Jones, what have you got? It's coming, I promise.
To Keith Downey in just a moment. He is just completing a phone call, and after he's completed that phone call, he can give us the good news that Newcastle fans have been waiting for.
Yeah, Rob, sorry about that. The phone's been very busy today. Finally, the Newcastle United supporters have got what they have wanted for a long, long time, for 18 months of this takeover saga, for 14 years of Mike Ashley's stewardship. The Premier League statement, which we've been waiting for all day long, has just landed in my inbox in the last minute. I'll read it to you, and I'll read every word of it. It says, the Premier League, Newcastle United Football Club and St James's Holdings Limited, of course that's Mike Ashley's company, have today settled the dispute over the takeover of the club by the consortium of PIF, PCP Capital Partners and the Reuben Brothers Sports and Media Company. Following the completion of the Premier League's owners and directors test, the club has been sold to the consortium with immediate effect. They say the legal disputes concerned which entities would own and or have the ability to control the club following the takeover. So they say the legal disputes concerned which entities would own and or have the ability to control the club following the takeover. But all parties have agreed that the settlement is necessary to end the long uncertainty for fans over the club's ownership. The Premier League has now received what they say legally binding assurances that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will not control Newcastle United Football Club, but the consortium will, of course, which of 80% of that is a public investment fund of Saudi Arabia. So they've proved the separation, they have those legal documents. And they finally say this in the statement, the Premier League, they say, all parties are pleased to have concluded this process, which gives certainty and clarity to Newcastle United Football Club and their fans. So that's the statement that has just dropped in the last few minutes from the Premier League. That is what we've been waiting for, and I suppose that is why everyone has just had that little bit of uncertainty, because although Newcastle were happy with the deal, although we told you half an hour ago the shares had transferred, the money had been deposited, it still needed to get that rubber stamp from the Premier League. There it is in black and white, from the Premier League, to say after all this time the takeover is now passed. This football club is no longer owned by Mike Ashley, it's now owned by the Saudi-backed consortium led by Amanda Staveley, and a new dawn here is in the offing at Newcastle United.
Well, stay with us, Keith. We're going to work our way through that statement. There's a lot there, so I'm sure you'll be able to find it on our website, skysports.com, and across our digital platforms as well. But I think it was just over 4 years ago that Amanda Staveley came to the first game here at St James's Park, Newcastle United against Liverpool. Just guide us through that timeline and why it's taken so long for that dream she had to be part of a consortium that bought Newcastle to finally getting it over the line in 2021.
Rob, it would take me 4 years to to talk about all that. That's how long it would take to get through. It has been a long, long time. It really, I mean, there's been so many twists and turns. I stood here in April 2020 last year when we were told an agreement had been reached in principle with the consortium, the exact consortium that's in place right now to take over the club 18 months later. What then happened is the consortium needed to go through the owners and directors test with the Premier League, which every takeover does. When they got to that stage, the Premier League wanted further information regarding the consortium. They wanted the consortium to prove separation between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the consortium themselves. When that happened on the last day of July last year, the consortium walked away and decided they didn't want to be involved in it. That looked as though the deal was dead. Mike Ashley rallied behind the scenes. He threw the kitchen sink at it, I think it'd be fair to say. He took the Premier League to court on two different levels. We heard from one of them in the CAT case last week. They were supposed to go to independent arbitration in January of 2022, so in a few months' time. He did both of those. He brought the Saudis back to the table, made sure the consortium were still involved and still up for this. Amanda Staveley says that she always was, and the takeover since then, we've heard what's happened with the issues over in beIN Sports in the last 24 to 48 hours. That's been a massive stumbling block.
That's felt really significant this week, hasn't it? The resolution with beIN Sports and piracy issues.
Hugely. That was the main part that they needed to overcome. And now that has been overcome and that separation has been proved between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and also the consortium, the Premier League, as they say in their statement there, they're happy for it to proceed, and all parties are happy. I mean, it was interesting. We listened to that CAT case last week. There were a few claims made from the Premier League by Mike Ashley's lawyer. He said that the Premier League, throughout the owners and directors test last summer, said that they were influenced by the top clubs. That came out as a claim. There were certainly other things as well. Has that played a part in this decision? It doesn't say that in the statement here. I think as far as Newcastle United fans are concerned, they just need to concentrate in the future and try not to worry too much about what's gone on in the last 18 months or what's gone on in the last 14 years. Having spoken to the consortium a lot over the last 24 hours, particularly today, they've got big plans for the future, huge plans for this football club, and hopefully we'll hear some of them in the next couple of hours.
Well, we're going to talk about them with you in just a moment, but let's just bring you a statement from His Excellency Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the Governor of PIF, the Public Investment Fund, who are putting so much of the money behind this consortium that has just bought Newcastle United Football Club. Yasser Al-Rumayyan says, "We are extremely proud to become the new owners of Newcastle United, one of the most famous clubs in English football. We thank the Newcastle fans for their tremendously loyal support over the years, and we are excited to work together with them." In terms of those plans, we've heard that behind the scenes it's been called Project Zebra, this plan to buy Newcastle United. I can see it's an emotional moment for you actually, Keith, having followed this story for so long. It is not just about improving the playing staff and lifting them away from 19th in the Premier League. The ground needs a lick of paint. The training ground needs improvement. There is a lot for this new consortium to get their teeth into here at Newcastle.
Oh, I mean, it's a huge project. As you say, there's so many things that need improving. I think Mike Ashley would admit that himself, but towards the end he wasn't willing to put the money in to do that. The consortium, as I'm told, are willing to do that. You've mentioned many of the things that need upgraded. The training ground's probably the main one, but what the consortium want to do is they want to invest in the city. They want to invest in the area here around St James's Park. This stadium, over to my right hand side, is the cathedral, they call it, on the top of the hill. It's a stadium that's in the city centre. All the pubs and bars surround it. This is where the supporters come on a Saturday, and it's in the city. You don't get many football stadiums like that these days that form such a huge part of the city. The Saudi-backed consortium want to be part of that. They want to improve the infrastructure. They want to spend money improving other areas surrounding this into the town centre as well, which is just a stone's throw from here. Those are all of their plans. I think more intricate details will come out in the next few hours, and hopefully we'll hear from the consortium. I can add as well, and I haven't said this until this point, but the consortium have been here in the northeast for the last 48 hours now, hoping that this deal has been pushed through. We thought last night at 6 o'clock it was going to be pushed through. We then thought it'd be 10 o'clock this morning. The consortium working behind the scenes desperately trying to get this deal done, and they finally got it done now, at 5:15 on Thursday evening. I think the Newcastle supporters will remember that date. I'm just checking the date actually. 7th of October.
You can get a tattoo of it at the end of today.
Well, I think many fans will do that actually.
Well, talking to those fans, we can see the live pictures of them enjoying the moment, enjoying the fact that their football club is now in new hands. But you mentioned that it is a long-term project, and I guess the importance of tempering caution here, that this is not going to be an overnight success. Newcastle won't be lifting the Premier League trophy in May. That's not what supporters or most supporters think. But this is going to be something that needs to be, I guess, worked on over many years, they will feel. I
hate to be too realistic, but what Newcastle fans need to realise at the moment is they're in the drop zone, they're in the relegation zone. So the immediate priority for the consortium will be to try and get Newcastle up the table, and whoever the new manager is that comes in, that will be his remit to try and get them up the table. Yes, they'll have money to spend in the January transfer window, of course. I don't think they're going to throw bucket loads at it straight away. They want to do it gradually. They say to me they want to do it properly. They don't want this to be a flash in the pan. Interesting, I was watching a programme on television the other night about a fever pitch programme, and it was Blackburn Rovers, where obviously they threw so much money in it when they bought all the players like Alan Shearer and Graham Lasso back at the time, and it was a flash in the pan and they struggled after that. I think the consortium are aware of situations like that, and they don't want to go down that route. They want to build it slowly and gradually, but staying in the Premier League this season is imperative, and then building the city, building the stadium and everything else that surrounds is obviously crucial to them. And I mentioned it earlier, Rob. I think the key thing here is the consortium have showed their commitment to taking over Newcastle United by buying this football club while they're in the bottom three of the Premier League. I don't know if that's been done before, and they spent £300 million on a Premier League club, which at this moment in time, yes, they've only played 7 games, but are in danger of going out of the Premier League unless they arrest that slide. So they've showed their commitment. The supporters throughout all of this have shown their commitment, and it's about everyone teaming together now to ensure that Newcastle United are back up to where the supporters believe they belong and are back up as a major force. This will make Newcastle United, if they want it to be, if the consortium want it to be, one of the richest clubs in the world.
It was really interesting to hear you use the phrase there, the new manager, because we must stress that Steve Bruce is still the man in possession of that job. He has been under a huge amount of pressure almost from the very moment he walked through the door. I think there was a supporters trust poll that said 94% would be keen for a change of manager. I guess that would be a very easy thing for the new consortium, the new owners to do in terms of garnering even more popularity, would be to change the manager.
Yeah, I mean, you know, strangely, I don't actually think they've fully made their decision yet as to when they will look for a new man. I think they will. I think you'd very rarely see a takeover of this magnitude and the consortium or the company come in and don't bring their own manager. So I think they will do that. They've got 10 days to do that before the next game against Tottenham Hotspur, which is a week on Sunday, a game you can see live on Sky Sports. When I turned up here at 8 o'clock this morning, there were supporters queuing at the ticket office for tickets for that game, and that was before the takeover was through, so that kind of sums up that situation. Personally, I feel for Steve Bruce a little bit, because obviously he's had to work under really difficult circumstances. He's not had the money he wanted to spend. He wanted to bring in players on transfer deadline day. He was unable to, and he's cut
an ever more frustrated figure, hasn't he? As to see, you have to feel sympathy on a human level for him.
Totally, and he's so frustrated because the supporters are on his back and the supporters are criticising him, but it's been really difficult for him. He's not had a lot of money at his disposal. But then the supporters will say, well, hang on, you signed Callum Wilson, you had Joe Linton, you had these players, Alan St Maxim, and you're still in the bottom 3. I think Steve Bruce's job was probably under pressure anyway, even before this takeover superseded that. But I do think they'll bring their own man in. I must stress and say, though, that they haven't confirmed that at this stage. He could yet be in the dugout for the match against Tottenham. I think it would be unlikely. I think they're probably likely to get someone in, whether it's someone on a temporary basis or who they've got in mind moving forward. But I think Steve Bruce, he's been around long enough. He knows that it's a new era here, and it would be so difficult for him to remain in charge moving forward. So I think it's only a matter of time before a new man is announced.
Just a couple more questions then. You probably need to get back to your phone and work through a few more things. But firstly, I guess the issues and the concerns from outside of Newcastle about these new owners. Obviously, one of them has been satisfied from the Premier League's perspective, this relationship between the state and the ruling family and the PIF. But the PIF's chairman is still the Crown Prince, so there's probably a little bit of uneasiness there.
Yeah.
And the other issue, of course, is with human rights in Saudi Arabia. And that, I guess, is largely possibly being ignored in Newcastle, would you say, because they're desperate for anyone but Mike Ashley to be in charge of the club. But that will be an issue that probably won't go away for the coming weeks.
Well, a key point in this, and this is our understanding tonight, is that, and I think it was mentioned in the statement as well, is if it's found that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are running the club at any point, then the Premier League have the power, according to that statement and according to legal binding documents, they have the power to disqualify Newcastle from competition. So they have to ensure that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are not involved in the running of the club. Yasser Al Rumayyan is essentially going to be the chairman of the club. He is a high figure at Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, and he will essentially take over the running of the club as a non-executive chairman. Amanda Staveley will be the face of the club. She's the one that's put everything in the background. And just looking over my right-hand shoulder here, and sorry, you can probably hear in the background is what looks like hundreds of Newcastle supporters just essentially running around the stadium. I don't know if the cameraman, I don't think you'll be able to get round.
We'll thank you for the moment, Keith. There are some Newcastle fans, some with their shirts off. Good time to us to go to a break. We'll see you in a few minutes' time.